Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Show, powered by the Rangers Ramble podcast. It is the Matchday 7 review. I'm your host, Robert, and at the moment I'm joined by Connor. Connor, how are you doing?
Not bad at all, aye. It's certainly been a packed weekend, to say the least. There's been a lot going on, so good to get talking about the other stuff that's been going on in the league this weekend. I always look forward to that, especially with a weekend like that. It's good to just turn your attentions away for a minute.
Listen, Matchday 7 has turned out to be the most pivotal weekend of the campaign so far. We're going to dive into that game by game. Obviously, it's just the two of us at the moment. We are expecting another guest, hopefully, before we finish the review, so there'll be a bit more input as well. We do the predictor. All the guys on the panel put the results in before the games are played. And then lovely Lewis, he collects them onto a spreadsheet and does something with them and comes up with these scores. So we are now a couple of games in. No, I say a couple of games in. A few games in. And they are the current standings. So I'll let you go through them, Connor, seeing as you're at the right end of that, sorry, the wrong end of that. And have you froze or have I froze? Looks like maybe you froze. You back in? There we go.
I think I'm back, aye. Fucking what great timing that is. Oh, hold on. I'm about to freeze again. Carry on. I'll take me 2 seconds. It's this fucking VPN.
No bother. Okay, I'll shoot through them. So the predictables it stands, Kerr and James are tied in first place. James had a really good week and he's came storming back into it. Lewis only 2 points behind there. You're all right?
We should be fine now. Touch wood.
So, Lewis 2 points behind. And then myself on 7. Ian apparently had a decent week as well. So he's chasing my tail. And then it's your good self, Connor, in the playoff spot with 5 points. And David was all up with 4. It's really, do you know, see when you think you get involved and you think, I'll be on no baddies. It's really, really hard. It's really, really hard.
Oh, it's ridiculously hard. And the thing is, as well, you change your mind on some of the predictions. I mean, I had a few there that I swayed back and forward with. Like Motherwell and Celtic, for example. Initially, I was going 2-1, changed it to 3-1 because I didn't want to copy other people, and then ended up, wishing I had stuck with what I put. And even Kilmarnock's mum was the same. I was taking a draw there until the last minute and just thought, I think it's Motherwell legit. But obviously I was wrong. So it's not as easy as it looks. But I'll need to up my form, or otherwise I'll need a change of management.
Listen, my love affair with Davy Martindale is costing me because I'm backing Levy every week and they're letting me down week upon week. So that needs to stop. I need to start voting with my head, not my heart. Okay. Right. So, listen, there's only one place to start, I think, this week, barring the obvious, and that is Fir Park. The early kick-off on the Saturday. Obviously, all games were played on Saturday. Motherwell again, Connor, it's one of them where for the last couple of games, St Mirren, Rangers, and then Celtic, where the shoot kettle was coming away thinking, what have we got to do to win a game of football?
I mean, it's one of the ones where, on one hand, I do have sympathy for them because that's a right tough one to take. We all seen how hard they were for us to beat last week, and then the shift they put in there again at the weekend, that they are firing in great form. I just think that what probably let them down at the weekend was just losing concentration. Don't think you've got the point in the bag until you know you've got the point in the bag. And they let it slide. Because even when you see the goal, which we'll obviously cover in more detail, that they do concede, it's just, you can't let a man run after you at the back post unchecked. And it looked for a minute like the Motherwell player, I can't remember what it was, sort of seen O'Reilly, but he never really made a move towards him to try and block him off or stop him getting to it. And listen, I get it. It's the old cliche. You're always at your most vulnerable when you've just scored, and that's never truer than in a situation like that. Because 95th minute, you're thinking, right, got an equaliser, home and hosed. Here we go. point the bold. But listen, they'll be fine because when it comes to the other games against everybody else, they're picking up points and they're winning games. And if they keep performing like that, then and Kettlewell said it himself in his post match that he was looking at the belief that they can go and do again what they've just done the next time they come up against the Old Firm teams and again make it difficult and have a right good goal, which I like because it's a team that have not got fear, that they just want to have a goal, because the games aren't the games they're expecting to get anything out of, so it's easier to do it. But I think just a bit more concentration at the back and they'd have been fine. And even to be fair, a bit more clinical up front because they should have had more than the one goal that they got as well, Motherwell. They had a good few chances, and I thought certainly for the highlights package I seen, they looked sort of the better team for first goals in the game. They did have a goal chopped off, which is one of those goals that I think as football fans frustrates you because goalkeepers are such a protected species. In the initial phase, I must say, because then you realise it was offside. But prior to that, you're thinking, well, surely an old foul. Again, though, follow the line. They're offsides you don't need to be offside in the first place, especially when you're getting a double done and thinking it's a foul as well as everything else. So, they were unlucky to a degree and a bit sloppy in other manners.
Well, listen, let's talk through some of those chances that you mentioned there. So I think that the first one's that Blair Spittle quick free kick into Payton. He gets his shot away. Bain saves it, gets the ball back in, and I think it's Lagerbielke who gets the block in. But Motherwell seem to be in the ascendancy early on in this game. They seem to quieten the Celtic support nice and early doors, which tells you a lot. Usually when the Old Firm take fans to Fir Park, it's singing from minute 1 to minute 90, but the Celtic fans knew they were in a game.
Oh, listen, 100%. I think they realised, I think going into that game, the form that they've been on, you've seen that they've just made your rivals sweat it away from home the previous week. And other games they've played in as well. I do think, obviously, what's let them down a little bit has been their home form. It's been a bit up and down. Where they've picked up points away. You only look at a couple of weeks ago, they lost at home to St Mirren, which is, listen, no shame with the form St Mirren are on, but they're games that they'd be looking to win to pick up points on home soil as well. But with chances like that, again, it sounds harsh because when you're not out there on the park and you're not playing, it's easy to sit here and say it, but I did think Payton probably should have done better with the effort, especially because there's an opportunity presented itself to Motherwell there that they might not get the next time that fixture comes round, because you're playing against Celtic's second choice goalkeeper, who up until, in fact, arguably was their third choice goalkeeper last year behind Siegrist. I think it was they had in there. So he's rusty. He's not had much game time. He's been known to have a few mistakes, which is why he's not the number one goalkeeper. Put that pressure on him and see, make him properly have to work to make a save, and you might get something fall your way. So it is about doing that. As I say, it's easy for me to say he should have done better, right, and he should have scored, because I'm not saying I would have, but you've got to take your chances when they come, especially when you're playing against the Old Firm, because the majority of the time, if you don't take your chances, you end up punished. Because Celtic weren't going to need multiple chances to score. They didn't need to. And to be fair, even the goal they scored is tinged with a bit of luck, because I don't know if that's a shot or a cross. But
before we get to that, because you're covering ground quicker than I can get there. You've done the offside goal. We won't go through that again, because I think you covered that quite well. But Blair Spittle then goes on to have a nice touch and finish and was unlucky. But then Brendan Rodgers makes some changes, and you see that coming off that Palmer cross, and Forrest is the header. Probably straight at the goalkeeper, to be fair. The warning signs are there, and then you mentioned just there in your last sort of wee bit that Palmer gets his cross away, and it's got to be the bounce that beats Liam Kelly, right? Because he's a better keeper than that for that just to be an error.
I think so. I got to give him the benefit of the doubt because he is a better keeper than that, and I think the bounce does beat him a bit. I think obviously it doesn't help is the fact there is a lot of players in the box as well when that comes in, and you've always, especially as a goalkeeper, and I'm a goalkeeper, so I can speak to it. When that situation happens, you've got your mind on a couple of different things all at the same time because one, you're not sure, is he going to shoot, is he going to cross? Turned out to cross, but it ended up in. And you're also looking at the players round about as well. If it comes to them, where's my positioning going to have to be here? If you make the save, are you tipping it out? So, it's one of those unfortunate type of goals for a keeper like Liam Kelly. And I think if the bounce isn't there, he probably just tips that around the post and it goes safely out for a corner kick. But these things will happen to you, as I say, if you don't take your chances, whether it's through a moment of quality or just a slice of good luck. Unfortunately, you find yourself punished.
But listen, at that point, it could have been easy for Motherwell just to accept their fate and see the game out. However, they got the park, they batter on the Celtic door, and it's a long throw into the box. Some good link-up play on the edge of the box, and Blair Spittle puts it away delightfully.
Oh, it's a brilliant finish. Really is. Great footwork for Blair Spittle as well to give himself that half a yard to then get the shot away in the first place. Controls it well and then just slots it into the corner. There's no keeper's going to save that because when you put it low and straight into the corner like that at that angle, he's not saving it. So it's a terrific goal for Blair Spittle. And to be fair, he does have that in his locker, Spittle. I've seen bits of him at his time at Ross County, for example, and he showed flashes of quality like that. And he's done the same at Motherwell. So they've definitely got a good player on their hands there in Blair Spittle. And as I say, it's a lovely bit of footwork. And it's good for them to get the goal shared about as well because I think recent weeks it's been, about the likes of Slattery and stuff like that who have been getting in amongst the action. So having him bang one like that, and that will be hopefully great for his confidence. You can talk about the defending in terms of clearly you shouldn't let a player get that many touches of the ball inside your box when you've got cover there to stop it. But no, I give all the credit to Spittle for that. It's a lovely wee goal.
At that point, you're thinking Motherwell are going to get a result out of this after 2 games where they've played really well and end up with nothing. They're going to walk away a point here, but no. Taylor crosses really deep to the back stick, and Matt O'Reilly puts it into the top corner and really steals the points, you have to say.
Yep, smash and grab, ultimate smash and grab. I mean, it made an arse of me, to be fair, because I was sitting on the build-up for our game at the time when Spittle scored, and I unashamedly did celebrate that goal going in on the screen, at which point Martin informed me not to go too early, which clearly I did because they got the goal back. As I said earlier, it's one of the goals you've just got to stay switched on. You've scored in the 95th minute to equalise. Yes, there's the jubilance in there that you've managed to rescue a point for a situation where you concede 3 minutes before time and you think the game's done despite all your hard work. And then it's just a lack of concentration. You can't allow players to come in unchecked, unmarked at the back post, because if that cross gets to him, he's going to score it because there's nobody around him. It's as good as a tap-in. He ends up about 4 yards out. It's a decent half volley to Matt O'Reilly's credit. But he just shouldn't be allowed to get into that space in the first place. And I'm sure when they look back in that this week, when they get into the training ground and stuff, I'm sure Kettlewell will point that out to them and they'll work on that because those are vital moments in the game, and points like that are important because it's almost a bonus point for Motherwell if you hold on there. I know some people might say, well, the amounts of added time and things like that was on, because even after in the 95th minute Motherwell score, there's that 2 or 3 minutes that the game then continues to go on. But as a player on the park, you can't be concerned with it. All you need to be concerned with is play to the whistle, do your job, and then you can look back at it. Unfortunately for Motherwell, they didn't. And Celtic have got that quality that they can ping a ball like that and catch you, and that's just what happened. I do think that the pitch invasion at the end was a bit much, because I had to check for a second that it wasn't me and they hadn't just won the league with that goal. You know what I mean? But aside for that, it's just an ultimate smash and grab 3 points.
Listen, we must address the comments again, because every time we do this podcast, people say, "Why are you talking about Celtic? Why are you not talking about Rangers?" This is the Scottish Football Review Show. If you want the Rangers content, there is ample of that on this podcast. There's a phone in tonight at 7:30, which I'm sure you're all going to digest. But here we leave the Rangers game to one side, and we pick apart the bones of what's left in our Premiership. So, Albert, I'm really sorry, but there's going to be no Rangers chat in the next hour. You'll have to hang fire to 7:30 and dial 01416272337 to get involved. Just on finally on this one, Connor, Stuart Kettlewell, he remained upbeat, should I say, in his post-match. Sorry, if you're wondering why I'm out of breath, I left the key in the door. Wife went to come in for work. She can't get in. It's only me and you on the podcast, so I had to run down the stair and let her in. It's better just to get that out and about because we are live. So I just wanted to finish up with Motherwell, because I really think that midfield deserves some praise. You mentioned Slattery, Spittles we've spoke about there as well, but Lennon Miller and Harry Payton as well. They've got a real good young talent. We've got to say, I think Kettlewell has seen a resurgence of Stephen O'Donnell as well, I must add. So yeah, all good for Motherwell. Okay, so next up we'll go to Rugby Park. Killie v St Mirren. St Mirren, high-flying St Mirren. We talk about St Mirren every week on here. And I'm a massive fan of a couple of their players. I think they're doing really, really well. So, again, St Mirren start really well. They have a good chance with Einstein, Whitman, and it's Gogic that gets onto the end of it. And unfortunately, he can't beat the goalkeeper. What do you think to St Mirren and how they're sort of taking the game to teams these days rather than sort of sitting in like we might have seen the St Mirren teams of old?
Yeah, listen, it shows a team absolutely full of confidence. They believe in what the manager's doing and what he's selling them in the training park. They're obviously working on that route. I think part of it comes down to the fact that they are a team who in a lot of ways need to go and play in that front foot just now. Because although I think they've got decent defenders here, I don't think it would suit their style. And to be fair, seeing what Robinson done at Motherwell as well, it was never his style to be sat back deep and defending games. He always did like to attack them. And that's what you're seeing, the confidence they've got. And the thing is as well, you're going away to a Kilmarnock side, you already know the pitch is against you. That's already an issue for you to overcome, which they did, I thought, brilliantly. But it's also a Kilmarnock side who themselves will feel a bit of confidence, particularly at home. I know they had, knocks against Ross County and Hearts in recent weeks at home, but in general, their home form through last season into the start of this season, when they've beaten both sides of the Old Firm, has carried them through and kept them in the league. So they have been tough to go and get points off at Rugby Park, and St Mirren had no fear of that whatsoever. They just went out and they went, do you know what? We're a better team than you. We believe we are better than you. We believe if we go toe-to-toe, we can take you on and win. And okay, they didn't quite win the game. But it's really impressive what they're doing. It's the consistency they're putting on, because this isn't just 7 games in the league you're talking about that St Mirren have played here. This is a Viaplay Cup campaign that up until midweek they had been superb in. It had won every game. Listen, one-off cup games can happen that you can lose. They got unlucky and that's the case here. But to have that as your only defeat since July, it's impressive for a team like St Mirren. And they said, it was a couple of years ago, a lot of people laughed when they said that they were going to be a top 6 club. And they're proving to me right now that they will be absolutely more than that. I'm expecting, if they keep going the way they're going, they'll be challenging for the European positions.
What did you think to Vassell was sort of looking for handball early on before the St Mirren goal goes in? Do you think much to that? Was there much in it? And it's strained when he comes in, and it's
that was before the Kilmarnock goal. I think that was.
Yeah.
I don't think you can be given penalties for that personally, because I don't know how much Ryan Strain really knows about it. Yes, it does certainly come off the bottom of his elbow. There's no denying that. But he's in midair at the time as well. He's jumped up, so your arms are naturally going to be in that kind of position. I thought it would have been incredibly harsh had that been given against him. Although it wouldn't have overly surprised me, because you're never sure with a handball rule right now, because you see ones that are arguably lesser than that get given. So no, I'm glad that wasn't given, because for me it's just not a penalty.
And then, it didn't put Kilmarnock on the back foot, because they went up, and it's Brad Lyons puts the defender under pressure, and then sort of gets his just was from the goalkeeper. Was it a foul on Hemmings, did you think, or is that just me? You said you're just there, a fully fledged member of the goalkeepers union, so I don't know maybe this, but is Hemmings right to complain, or is Lyons went for a 50-50 and won it?
Nah, I think it's a difficult one to judge, because if Hemmings has came out and he's going to get there before the Kelly player, and he's been taken out, possibly that's a free kick. And the way that goalkeepers are protected a lot in those scenarios, you could see a case to be made for it. But I think Hemmings has just mistimed it, is all that's happened. I think he's come out to try and punch it away, and he's got it wrong, and he's been beaten to the ball, and it's ended up in the back of the net. And to be fair, it's a great header, because it's brave to put yourself in where it hurts, because you could take a really, really sore one there, especially with keepers, because they don't hold back. They'll charge out and they'll just go for it. So he could have really been wiped out the game with that, and he showed the bravery to go up and get the header. It's not one I think Hemmings will want to look back on, because I think he would recognise himself, probably now that the dust is settled, that he should have done better in dealing with it. So it might lose me my goalkeepers union card right enough, but you can't get fouls for that, knowing you've made the mistake.
You go into mistakes, you look at the next chance in the game is obviously an own goal for McGuinness, but again, it's the fullback Tanzer on the other side, obviously getting involved this time. It's a good ball into the box, and all it takes is for a defender to get the wrong touch on that, and it's in the back net, which has happened here.
Oh, listen, I feel for the defenders, I really do, in these situations, because you don't have a choice. He's got to put a foot out there, because he's got some young player at the back of him, albeit at an angle and maybe further away from him than I think he thought he was. But if it goes back to him, he probably sorts it in anyway. So he's got to get a touch and hope that he can divert it away for goal. It's a wicked cross into the box. It really is. And it doesn't matter who gets a touch on it. It's fine in the back of the net if somebody does. Unfortunately for McGuinness, it happened that he was the guy that put it in. But it was no more than undeserved as well, to be fair. As much as you can say, well, that was an unlucky, on goal for Kilmarnock to concede. It had been coming. St Mirren had been knocking on the door and creating one or two moments. And I think they certainly more than merited at least that goal to get their point.
Just finally on this one, the bit of contention with Strain booked for simulation. Was there a hand on the shoulder?
There was a hand on the shoulder. There was definitely a hand on the shoulder. You could see as he went into the box, he's put the hand on the shoulder. Now this is one of these funny ones where I don't think it's a penalty, because it's not enough for a player to be going to ground like that. That being said, and this is where I might come across as slightly contradictory, I also don't think that's a booking for simulation, because there is contact. And if you ask any centre forward who's ever played at any level of the game, if you feel contact on you, you do have a right to go down and ask the question of the referee. Now, the referee is entitled to not award it and say, nah, never a penalty. But I think to book somebody for simulation, you have to make the assumption that there hasn't been any contact and he's just blatantly trying to con you. And I always believe if there's contact, it's not always a penalty, but it's definitely 100% not a booking for simulation where there has been contact, because he a reason to go down, however soft it definitely was. So, you can feel a bit hard done by to get a booking for it. But listen, we want players to stop diving in that and get out of the game. And I think maybe if he thinks twice the next time about it, they don't think he could get a booking again. Who knows? And it depends on the referee you get on the day. But no, it's neither a penalty nor a dive for me.
Case closed. I'm happy with that. Just obviously, Stevie Robinson happy to come away with a point and remain undefeated. Interesting, Derek McInnes said that he's never felt second best in any games domestically this season. What do you make of
that? Listen, I admire his positivity, and he's got reasons to be positive because they've done reasonably okay. But I don't know how he can say that he's not felt second best in certain games, because I remember a couple of weeks ago when they played Ross County, they were absolutely second best in that game. I mean, I only watched the 10-minute highlight package and I could see that because the majority of the highlights were Ross County getting chances on Kilmarnock's goal. So they definitely have been second best in a few games. I think in that game there, I think a draw was probably a fair reflection on how that game went, without a doubt. So they weren't second best in that game. No, they were level. But I think when you've started as brightly as they did and you've got two huge scalps to go and start your season, it then sort of stagnated a bit and they've not really kicked on as much for there as they should have done. Even the Hibs game, for large parts of that game, they were second best. But to be fair, they showed the character to come back into that and dig out a point. So he's maybe got a point in moments in the game, but as a full 90 minutes, I don't think I've seen a single Kilmarnock game this season over a full 90 minutes where I've thought they've dominated the game for 90 minutes. I just haven't seen that. I've seen plenty of games that have played really well and have more merited their points, but I don't think they've dominated any of the games.
No, listen, and I tipped them as dark horses this season, but I'm probably going to have to take that away. I think, like most of the teams in the division, Conor, I don't know if you agree, I think a lot of them are lacking something up top, something that can get them sort of 20 goals a season. Obviously, Motherwell had it last season with Van Veen, but I don't see anyone really standing out. Maybe someone will come on to later on, actually, in the podcast about how I do want to heap a bit of praise on. But for now, we'll patch that one and we'll move up to Dingwall, where Stephen A. Smith obviously managed to book himself a place into the League Cup semi-final, trying to get a bit of form going in the league. I must say I did have an away win written down for this one, so it was no surprise the final result. A bit of a strange one, really, because Ross County had chances, but nothing really clear cut.
No, I think probably the pick of the bunch in terms of clear cut chances when they were 1-0 down towards the end of the game, and I think was it Simon Murray put a ball in, then came back out to him at an angle, but he's only about 10 yards out and he just puts it in the bar. That's probably their best opportunity that they could have done better with. But apart from that, I thought Hearts done well to limit their opportunities and control the game, and actually probably for the first time this season do what they're expected to do as a team who are pushing to be the third place team in this country, and have for 2.5 years out of the last 3 been the third best. That you go up to these grounds and you just get the job done. You get your 3 points in the board and you get back in the team bus to Gorgie and you focus on the next one. And they've not done that enough this year. So it's County should be doing better, because I think they've got some good players up front. You're talking about certain qualities and the levels that you've got to have in forward areas there. I think County, as opposed to some of the other teams round about them, have got that. I think Simon Murray's a great hand to have. He's already got 9 for the campaign for them in all competitions, so that's a good start. You've got Eamon Brophy in there as well. Again, for the level they're aiming at, isn't he a bad hand to have? Especially because last year they struggled with no replacing Regan Charles Cook, which was a huge blow. And obviously you've got the big boy Jordan Light, who likes to pop up here and there. So they've got that. They just need to utilise it a bit more, and they didn't do that at the weekend. But I think a lot of credit for that does need to go to Hearts. And it's been, I think, a much needed big week for Stephen A. Smith at Hearts, because it was looking like it was starting to slide a wee bit, and he's pulled it back together again.
Yeah, you listen to the Hearts supporters after the game, and they were sort of saying what a difference a week makes. Lauren Shanklin, early doors, had a lovely turn and shot just over the bar. I thought it might have been his day, but Hearts, again, they sort of squandered some chances as well. I think Stephen Kingsley pinned one in, and Vargas couldn't get on the end. It hits Alan Forrest. He should probably control it a bit better and maybe get it on target, but it goes wide of the post. The changes for Hearts probably gave them a lift. But I did want to come to you on same player, Brown, involved in two potential penalty shouts. So the first one's by Alex Lowry. I'm going to say no penalty for me. In between that, he has a wee shot wide. The second one, Shanklin barges him in the back. Now, we're talking about feeling contact and going down, Connor. What did you make of that one? There's a definite movement, isn't there?
Listen, I think that's a penalty all day long, personally, because that's not just a wee nudge, a wee shoulder to shoulder, right? Because they happen in football all the time, and I hate nothing more than a referee getting a foul for a shoulder tackle to shoulder because it's a contact sport. But Shanklin, he has barged through the back of him. Now, the mitigation might be that the ball had run loose, and he certainly slightly stepped into it a wee bit, I thought, Brown, but it's a foul. Anywhere else in the park, the referee would give you a free kick for that. I would be amazed if you wouldn't get a free kick for that anywhere else in the park. So I don't know why the penalty's not given, especially in the age where you've got the opportunity to bring VAR in and have a look at the screen, which they will have done, and they've cleared it. So I was disappointed with that decision, and you could see as well the way that Shanklin reacted after it. With a bit of a swagger about him, it was as if, I've put one in you. I've put one in you and I've got away with it, because he's giving him a wee pat in the head like he's a dog or something on the ground. Which, listen, top-notch banter, but that's a guy who knows he's got away with sticking one on him. So I think they certainly got away with one there, Hearts, because that's a penalty.
Well, it's a good point you made there around going to VAR. Now, if they're going to VAR there and they're deciding it's not a penalty, then surely he should be booked in the same manner Ryan Strain was booked down at Rugby Park.
Well, this is the inconsistency.
Am I being stupid there, or we're asking for consistency? No. They're not getting it if neither the referees on the pitch nor the guys controlling the VAR wherever they may be sat. I think we've Connor's having a wee bit of an issue there with his VPN. Just to sort of tidy that one up, then we'll come back if Connor comes back in on the VAR. Hearts then do get their opportunity to go ahead. It's a deep cross from Alec Lowry and James Forrest. Alan Forrest seems to get the benefit of the defender maybe not getting on the end of it, and I think he just sort of directs it into the goal rather than with any real purpose, Connor.
Yes, sorry, this fucking thing. I slightly froze there. It's a good goal. I must admit, the angle I seen it on at first, I thought that Purrington had put it in his own net.
I did. I thought he got his toe on the end of it.
His foot almost perfectly mirrored where Forrest's head was. So you couldn't see it. You just thought, oh, he's put his toe in that. And when it initially came up and went, oh, Forrest is going to go or something. Did he? But when you see the angle behind the goal, it's a lovely header because he's judged that. Listen, it's a great ball, but Forrest isn't the biggest player in the park, and he's really judged the flight of that well to get the flick on and put it into the back of the net rather than what you do see sometimes with those kind of headers where they kind of let it just glance off them and the keeper gets a nice easy save. So he's done well with the header there, 100%. And just briefly, because I did freeze on the consistency point you made earlier,
please,
it boils my piss, to say the least, the lack of consistency that we've got. Because, as you say, if you're gone by the standard setting in the St Mirren game, then you'd be booking him then, wouldn't you, for diving? Do you know? As I say, not every contact in a box is a penalty. Not every time a player goes down is it equally a bookable offence for diving, but there's got to be consistency across the board. I mean, we had a lengthy chat in the Matchday 6 review about VAR because it had an absolute nightmare last weekend. Thankfully, it's had a slightly quieter weekend, although I know there's other decisions to come in different games. But That's what we all want is consistency. So I think until they understand themselves what they're deeming to be diving and trying to con the referee and what they're not, then they have to, unfortunately, it's a lottery of referees in that aspect.
And Stephen A. Smith saying that he kind of felt that they were missing some urgency in attack. He felt he got it second half. I would have to argue that I don't think it was as good as what it could be for Hearts in terms of what they've got in attack. But he was delighted with the 3 points and down the road. Malky Mackay felt it was first and foremost a good game, but he thought they were worthy of a point. I would slightly disagree with him and say that they're just not carving out clear-cut opportunities enough to be pinching matches.
Aye, listen, they didn't create enough to get the point. Look, they're certainly unlucky to never get a penalty, as we've touched on. But see, apart from that and the Simon Murray opportunity, there was nothing much else that they'd done or created in the game to say they should have got the point. And there's a strong argument to say that they were kind of lucky. Hearts only got the one goal themselves. You mentioned some of the opportunities earlier with Shankland and stuff as well. So, look, it's one of the ones. It's a sore one because they're coming off a blip in form, but again, not one to be ashamed of because they've had 2 tough games against Aberdeen, where they're hammered 4-0 last weekend. They then have to play Aberdeen again midweek in the Cup at home, which, listen, they'd have fancied that. Unfortunately, it didn't go their way in that occasion. And then they've come into this, so there'll be frustration there, but that's where they have to create more. And not just that, when they do create it, they've got to take their chances. Because sometimes I watch Ross County, and some of the chances that fought them in certain games they don't take is unreal. I mean, the boy Jordan White, I quite like him, but I've seen him miss a few sitters in his time. So they've got to do that because they can't afford not to, with the fact that they're not going to create 10, 15, 20 chances a game. They might get 3 or 4 really good chances. And if you don't take them, that's what happens against teams like Hearts, who are top end of the table sides.
You couldn't have got much worse for Ross County than last week in Pittodrie, you have to say. Okay. On to Easter Road, which I thought, by the way, was arguably one of the most entertaining 0-0 draws I've saw in a long, long time. You look at both sides creating chances in this one. Early doors run as a header saved by David Marshall and Bakayoko looked lively early on as well. What have you made a Bakayoko, Connor? Just in, what you've seen of him.
I think he's a player who's shown a lot of promise. There's definitely a talent in there with Bakayoko. And see, to be fair to Dundee as a club, they've had this knack just every so often they'll pluck a wee really good player. We gem out of nowhere. We benefited obviously with Kamara, for example. I remember, years ago when it was it Kanija, I think, came for Dundee, as did Nacho Novo. So they've had these wee pockets where sometimes they just pull a player out, and he could be that. He's got the attributes. I think he needs to obviously be a bit more clinical and get some more goals to his name and things like that, but he's a key man for them, and I'm liking what I've seen for him so far. And listen, I had Dundee picked to go down at the start of the season, like I think a lot of people did, and if I'm being honest with how they started, I'm not as convinced just now that they'll fall through that trapdoor. I think they've got after an admirable start, even if they haven't won a lot of games. They've got 6 or 7 points in the bold. That's, for them at this point in the season, is not a bad outcome.
And then you look at Hibs as well. Again, they had so many chances from set plays in this game. I think they maybe had 23 shots on Dundee's goal. Trevor Carson was like a man possessed. But I wanted to touch on, we spoke earlier on about clubs maybe not having that guy at the top end of the pitch to put games to bed. I'm liking the look of the lad Venti that came in from the Eredivisie 2. Was it from Roda? He seems to have found his feet now. He seems to look settled. He's trying things. There's flicks in there. There's back heels. Obviously, he scored a couple of goals as well. He had a chance ahead that was brought out a good save from Carson. And he had another chance later on from a corner kick as well. Again, his impact in Scottish football looks to be a positive one.
Oh, 100%. Again, he's another one of these players who's come in this season. And even when Lee Johnson was still in charge of Hibs in the early part of the season when they were struggling, he was still a bright spark for them. When you've seen him play, he plays with the right attitude, and he's always seems to be in amongst all the good stuff that's going on for Hibs at the top end of the park. And I love to see that. I love to see, because we always talk about the old firm and the players they bring in and identifying and their scouting networks, but I love to see the other clubs as well showing that actually they've got a bit about them to identify good talent as well. Okay, they might not be at certain levels yet, but they'll get there. And I think a club like Hibs getting to play alongside guys like Martin Boyle, for example, that can only help a player like Venti, and the quality of service as well that he'll get. So I've been seriously impressed with him, and I'm not looking forward to when we actually come up against him, to be perfectly honest with you.
You mentioned there Martin Boyle, and I thought he gave the fullback Beck a difficult afternoon. Was there a case that Beck should have saw red for 2 yellow card offences?
There was a case for it, but it's one of the kind of ones I just think no every foul or challenge is going to be a booking. I think when you're on a booking and then you go into another one, you walk a tightrope. Then you're asking the serious question. I think he's got away because I'm not sure if he had another one of that before that, and it might have been that would have probably been his final warning. So yeah, in another day, another referee might have brandished a second booking there. But again, I go back to it. It's the lottery the ref you've got in the day. It's down to their individual interpretation. I think it was probably right that he stayed on and he didn't get a second booking, to be fair. I think he just needed to have a word in his ear and be told to calm down. But no, I don't think he wouldn't have been able to complain too much if he did get it, but I do think I'd have felt sorry for him as well if he did.
Nick Montgomery might have had a different post-match if he'd gone on Beck and took that late chance, because he certainly pulls over a fine save from Marshall again. What did you make of the Eli Yuhan dive? Has he got to get rid of that out of his game? He's a player, when I see him, he's sort of Jekyll and Hyde. You see a good performance out of Eli Yuhan, then you see 3 terrible ones.
You do. Again, another one of those ones he's obviously got the booking for diving, rightly. The thing is, when you see it at first, and it's where actually for a change, I will actually give the referee credit for this particular one, because I think he's got it absolutely banging the banana, and how difficult that was. Because how difficult that was to see. Because in real time, I'm watching it on the screen. It did look. It was certainly convincing enough to make me think, was that a foul there? And then when you see it back and you realise it just absolutely wasn't, that's about positioning the referee, that he could see what we couldn't, because he can see, he's closer to the action, that it wasn't. I think Yuan, if I was a Hibs fan, he would frustrate the life out of me. He really would. He's got to get things like that out of his game, because in that situation as well, he has control of the ball. There's still a chance there for Hibs to carve out an opportunity to get a shot and goal, and maybe even get a goal. And because he's made the decision to go down, that takes that chance away and just hands Dundee a nice easy out with a free kick, and they can take the pressure straight off their defence. So he's got to get out, because he's got good attributes. I think he's a great player, and he shows in flashes what he could be capable of if he took the other part of his game out there. So he's just you get players like that, I think, every so often that come up and they go one of two ways. Either they do, through time and through good coaching, step up a gear, get that out of their game, and they go on to become something great, or they just never find a way of getting it out and they end up potentially dropping down levels because of their attitude as opposed to their ability.
Well, listen, just to wrap up on this one again, Nick Montgomery said it was a frustrating afternoon for him at one of them games where the goalkeeper just had a really good day, and Trevor Carson and Tony Docherty as well, just saying that he thought the game was outstanding, and his team were really good as well. So I just want to address a point that's been brought up, sorry, and I just think it's a good talking point. I haven't spoke about Eli Yuhan. Albert's been gun-ho in the comments today. The Scottish Premiership is very poor, really. Junior players could play in it. That's for want of a better word, garbage, right, Connor?
It's not. Yeah, it's nonsense. Listen, trust me when I say it. And by the way, I'm a massive proponent of the junior game. I will, sometimes on a Saturday afternoon, I'll pop down and I'll see my local junior team play. I've done that a number of times.
Who is it you go and watch?
That's Cumbernauld United, and they are currently in the second tier in the junior league, having been relegated last year. But I've been a few times there and enjoyed. It's a great day out. It's proper grassroots football, so I would never criticise these players. But one thing I can absolutely guarantee you, they are not, for the most part, the quality that could play in the Scottish Premier League. No way on this planet. They could maybe, some of them get to League 2, League 1 level. But that's it's symptomatic of how we feel about our game, I think, up here at times, because it's been a two-horse race since the 80s, realistically. When we had the Alex Ferguson era at Aberdeen, you had Jim McLean at Dundee United, and even Hearts as well, and all these teams who did at one point do it. Will we get the golden era back in that respect? Probably not, but there's plenty of competitive action that goes on week in, week out. I mean, there's a reason we do this show, because there's a lot to be said for the rest of Scottish football. And I actually think part of the problem for somebody like Albert, it doesn't get the exposure that it should get. We were the only league, only top league at the weekend who didn't have a single televised game. It was a total blackout up here at the weekend. That's not good enough, because it doesn't showcase the real quality we've got. And you only need to look. I'm not going to list them off because we'd be here all day, but there is a list of players who've come through our leagues over the years who have been top quality, even the one or two that have been world class. And by the way, they haven't all played for Rangers and Celtic either.
Listen, as well, I get your point about exposure and maybe the game's not be televised, and as it's a pertinent point. But I think as well, with some supporters like Albert, maybe they just like to watch their own team. They only see the other teams when they come to play their own team, so they're not really catching up on the other games. You look at it from what other league in Europe can you say from the relegation playoff spot to fourth place? European places separated by one victory. It's so tight, as you say. It's very competitive. And I think, as you say, shows like this, just we need to try and talk it up. And there are players out there that maybe you don't want to talk up because they don't play for your team. But there's certainly, to say that junior players could play in that division, I just think is wild.
Do you know what, though? See, to be fair to Albert, Albert is exactly the type of person I want watching this show, because he's the type of person whose mind I want to change. Some people, you'll never change their mind. And listen, each to their own. You don't have to. If you're interested only in your own team, that's fine. That's great. That's what it's all about. It's a game of opinions. But we are here just talking about the football that we enjoy, that a vast majority I think enjoy as well. And if we can get somebody like Albert on board, great.
Listen, guys in the comments, some comments I won't pull up because there's, they're a bit hardcore for 6:20 at night. But I think the league does have some players that I would take. We've spoken about the boy Ryan Stein, and I kind of, people go on about James Tavernier, on and on about James Tavernier, and I think Ryan Stein would give him good competition and maybe somebody take over later on if you're looking for players within the league. But that's another talk for another day. Just while we're on it, my junior team would be Kilsyth Rangers, but me and Connor will battle that out off there. Final game of the weekend, St Johnstone rooted to the bottom, take on Davy Martindale's Livy, who just looked sort of, really out of form as well at the moment. This one did not have a box office feel about it whatsoever. However, St Johnstone probably played their best football in the first 45 of that game, Connor.
Aye, without doubt. I think they did play their best stuff in the first 45. And I thought, listen, again, it was positive signs for them at that stage. They obviously did come out fancying their chances, because they're coming up against a Livy team who they can be tough to play against, but who hadn't been in great form. And if you're going to pick up points, there's a reason games like that get branded 6-pointers a lot of the time, because in most cases they tend to be, because they're the games you want to win down there, especially for St Johnstone. They were badly needing a win. Unfortunately, they didn't get it. although I think they were robbed personally. But I thought it was positive for them to begin with. It dwindled out, and as you expect, it then became a bit of a 50-50 kind of scrappy affair. But I still think they were probably the better team on the day.
Well, let's start with Kucheravi. He gets a ball into the box, and it's Costello who gets a shot away. He obviously gets his goal later on. Good work in the middle of the pitch, through ball, and he puts it away. But he had a couple of chances. Maybe that's what you get with a young loanee. You're not getting that consistency. He didn't look like the type that could probably play up front on his own. Would that be fair?
Aye, I would agree. He's somebody that needs another body in there beside him. Preferably somebody with a bit of experience, maybe that can help him get better. Because as you say, he is on loan as a young player, so you're going to get that's the fallibilities you get with players like that. But you can't ask him to be playing as a lone striker for me. He's just not there yet in terms of his clinicalness. You don't in these kind of games as well. It's nip and tuck at times. And it's a physical, real, proper battle. And I just think sometimes it's unfair to ask a young player like that to go, all right, you play up yourself, because you're putting pressure on him that I'm not sure he's ready to deal with yet. So I'd highly recommend putting him in a front two rather than by himself, certainly.
And I think Livy get a let off shortly after that. Graham Carey with a lovely ball in the box, and Oberlai nearly heads into his own net.
To be honest with you, I'm still not sure how he didn't, actually. It's quite, I think he's weirdly done well to avoid that. Again, it's so un-Livy-like the way that they have defended this season. It really is. The goals I've seen them concede, whether it's, Ibrox against us, whether it's been in against St Mirren when they were inches away from what would have been a very, very good win for them to get. Something doesn't seem to be clicking in their back line for some reason just now. I don't know if it's that influence in Nicky Devlin that they're really missing, because losing him, it's a body blow for him. But then they've replaced him with another Devlin, and Mikey Devlin, I think it is, who's got a bit of experience about him as well. But maybe just no the same qualities that Nicky Devlin had. So I think they're a bit open just now, and you don't expect that for a Livy side. And that's not to say, by the way, I don't think they've been utterly dreadful or anything like that in games. I think you look at the score lines, and at least 3 or 4 of the games they've had, they've certainly been more than in those games. But it's errors, I think, that are costing them. And obviously Oberlai there kind of gets away with one by not putting it in his own net. But again, they don't heed the warning signs.
No, listen, I think what you say is right, that they do look a bit shaky at the back. The centre-half pairing doesn't look right to me. I don't know if that's a communication thing or something that maybe they've been told to do. In the second half, Anderson and Shinnie combine, and Anderson sort of puts it towards the keeper, good save. Then we see Newbley fouled by Gordon. Foul for you, that, or was he fortunate? I don't think Newbley was actually in control of the ball. What are the rules around that?
Is this the penalty incident?
Yeah, the penalty incident, yeah.
Oh,
what did you think of that one? Because it's a hopeful ball up from Oberlai. He's chasing it down. That ball's going out all day long. There's so much pace on it. Newbley's not getting that in a month of Sundays.
Well, listen, that's one aspect of it, definitely. I'm not 100% clear on the rules of that. Although I think as long as the ball's still in play, I don't think it matters much, because they do tend to give the attacker the benefit of the doubt there that they might get to it, even if it's unlikely that they will. However, that is a shocking decision to award a penalty there. Absolute stinker for me. And I'll tell you for why. When you look at it on the screen, I don't blame the referee, I blame VAR. Because see, when you see it on the screen, you can clearly see that Newbley initiates the contact with Gordon. It's as clear as the light of day. He puts his arm round to Gordon, almost in his face, actually, which does lead to Gordon, yes, sort of tangling with his arm, but it's almost to get him out of the way because he's initiated that contact. Now, on one hand, it's clever forward play because you've bought yourself a penalty kick there. But I think bought's the key word, because they're genuinely the sort of penalties, if they go against you, against your team, it's maddening, absolutely maddening, because you can see that the attacker's the one initiating it and the defender gets punished. If there was going to be a foul for anybody there, it probably should have been Gordon, in my opinion. Having said that, the ref could have just let it go out for the goal kick and be done with it. So I do think they were really, really hard done by there. And Nubly's, being a bit cute and bought himself the penalty kick.
Listen, Sean Kelly steps up and dispatches it well. That's his 5th Livy goal. All have been penalties, so he was never going to miss, was he? I think Davy Martindale sort of said at the end of that he was lucky to get a point, really. He kind of felt that maybe, which we'll touch on here, that Craig Gordon.
He wishes it was Craig Gordon.
Gordon gets the red card, second yellow, and he's sent off obviously after the VAR decision. I kind of thought that one was maybe a really bad tackle. I think it was followed up by one from Hull, who I think was reacting to the tackle on Nubly, maybe going unpunished.
Yeah, listen, it's a poor tackle, the one for the sending off, and second book and whatever else. It's a straight red card in my opinion anyway, because he's gone straight legged in. It's on Joel Nubly. I think it's born out of the frustration of the previous decision that went against him that we mentioned there for the penalty, because it's the same 2 players involved. I think he's had a bit of frustration. He's felt hard done by, but yes, he's obviously trying to get the ball to a degree, but I think he's also seen that it's Nubly and kind of left one on him a wee bit out of frustration. So it's a learning point for Gordon. I think he's got to, because that's going to be a blow for St Johnstone. They're now going to be without him in their next game. And they can't really afford to have players doing silly things and getting sent off and then missing them in games, because it can have a real impact on them. So I don't have sympathy there. He's just got to learn, because it's the modern game. You can't go in like that. You just can't, and you won't get away with it, because even if the ref misses it, VR, for whatever reason, they seem to be pretty on the ball with most of those kind of ones when it comes to a studs up affair. So it's unfortunate, and to be fair, I don't think it happens if they don't concede the previous penalty.
Stephen McLean now, he's got to try and build on that first half. I thought they were, as I say, as lively as they've looked this season. They are starting to look cut adrift. I know it's only 4 points, but as you say, momentum can gather down there, and points become really hard to come by.
Listen, he's somebody right now, McLean, who he's desperate just to get that win for somewhere by any which way he can. They've picked up a couple of, I'd say, fairly valiant points in terms of, you go 2-0 down at home to Dundee, you've been second best in that game, and you call yourself a couple of late goals and get a point. That's fine. You're got to be happy with that. But again, that's a game that you should win. You're getting these home games just now against the teams around about you, and you're not winning. Problem they've got is when they come off the back of an international break, and I'm not sure who they play this weekend, but when they come off the back of that, they'll have the reverse of the fixtures. They'll then need to go away to Dundee now. They'll need to go away to Livingston and have those ties. And that's harder to get 3 points away from home in those games. So it's a struggle for them. And I think McLean, he's doing just about enough to keep himself in post right now, because he's under pressure. He can't keep no winning games and stay there at the bottom of that table forever, because for a club like St Johnstone, the length of time they've stayed in the top flight is admirable for the size of the club, and the achievements they've had in terms of the 3 cups they've won. They've had an unbelievable past decade or so, but they can't really be going down, because that championship is so hard to get back out of.
Listen, and the poise you touch on there, Callum Davison was probably sacked for this. Okie just to finish up then, quickly round up the table. Celtic still top of the league, St Mirren up into second, Rangers in third, Hearts fourth, Motherwell fifth, then it's Hibs, Aberdeen, Killie in the bottom 6th and 8th, Dundee, Livy, Ross County and St Johnstone as aforementioned. We'll be back not this Thursday for the preview show as it's European week, back next Monday before the phone in with another review. Just to answer Chloe's question, we don't talk about Rangers on the Scottish Football Show. We'll leave that to the professionals who follow us at 7:30 for the phone in. Brian's your host tonight. He'll be joined by Connor again. Connor's doing a double shift. You've got Ian and James as well. I'll be on the phones in the background taking the calls. So if you want to get a call in, it's 0141728 or 6287237. I might be wrong there. Wait till it comes on.
It's 6287237.
There we go. There we go.
Even if you just want recommendations for a good dentist after Robert, just phone in for that as well. You might as well take it.
Come on, because there's been loads going on at Ibrox that we're going to get through. Loads going on over the weekend as well. So yeah, we'll look forward to that and another time. But thanks for joining us tonight. Cheers, Connor.
Pleasure as always.